the Bring Back Soul Music podcast, the only podcast devoted to making soul music relevant again. Let's get started with your host, Todd Woodson.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Bring Back Soul Music podcast. My guest today is a talented singer-songwriter from Toronto, Canada. His name is Tafari Anthony. Mr. Anthony, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Great. Thanks for joining the podcast.
My pleasure.
So I got some information from your team, and I really like your current song called Centerfold. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. I think people will enjoy that. But before we do, I'd like to get a little bit more information on your background. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Cool. So, I grew up in Toronto, Canada, which a lot of people are not usually from Toronto. And I've been singing since I was honestly so young. Both my parents are both in music, so I was always around. But I feel like it wasn't really until I went to college and kind of stopped doing music for a few years that I kind of really found my voice in music. And so since then I've just been, writing things and putting out a couple of different EPs. Took another break, and then now we're back with Centerfold, and I have some more things, and it's going from there. Yeah.
So you mentioned that your parents were in music. What do they do?
My mom is a singer, so she kind of got like a Mariah Carey, Whitney-esque kind of vibe. I know those are big names. And then my dad is a dub poet, so it's just like poetry to reggae music.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So I guess that helps having parents who are in the business can kind of lead you down the right path.
It does, but it's a funny thing when you grow up in a situation like that where it is very encouraged, because I find obviously it's a great thing to be encouraged to do something that you love, but it can also become a thing where it feels like I'm just kind of living out their dream. So even though I was obviously good at music, and that's why they were pushing me, it's like growing up with it being so accessible, I almost took it for granted maybe. So it's almost like you have to kind of get rid of that for a second to really fall in love with it for yourself.
Okay. And so you are committed and dedicated and in love with music.
Listen, I have no other choice now. We're in.
Okay. So, like I said, we're going to talk about Centerfold, but what did you do before that? I know you were speaking earlier before we started recording that you took a break for a while, and you took a break maybe a couple of times, I guess.
So because I was doing it when I was so young, I had a full album out when I was 19 that I recorded throughout high school. The vibe was very different, but it was a picture of what was happening at the time. Then I went to college. After college, I started back, but I was mostly doing musicals and things like that. Just kind of making money doing music, which was great. And then I just had a moment of realizing that even though I was performing all the time and whatnot, I wasn't actually writing music. And I realized that that's where my passion was lying. So I just made a conscious effort to get back into actually writing and recording and putting stuff out. So since making that decision, I put out 2 EPs between 2016 and 2017. And then I took maybe 2 years off to just focus on writing again, live life a little bit so I can just come up with some new stuff. And so now we're back to the process of putting things out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I read your profile, and it seems like you seem to write about love and relationships, which is kind of the...
That's pretty standard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who were some of your influences, maybe besides your parents, but who were some of your influences?
Growing up, I always loved artists like Prince. Brandy is a huge influence of mine, John Legend, people like that, just because I find they're all very different artists, obviously, but they all kind of manage to do what they do in whatever genre they're doing. So like someone like Prince, for example, is a good person because like Prince could do anything, right? But like no matter if he's doing a rock song today or a country song tomorrow or a straight up R&B tune, like you always know it's Prince, but it still has that flavor of whatever genre it is. So I really respect artists like that just because I'm into so much different stuff, and I find myself like inspired by different genres, that it's kind of it's exciting to kind of see how you can put your own sound into those spaces.
Okay, and do you? I know Centerfold is more up-tempo R&B, I think. Do you have other songs that are probably maybe more pop or maybe pretty rock?
Yeah. So I mean, my first EP was definitely way more experimental. Had a lot more like live rock kind of drumming on it. And then the stuff I'm doing now is definitely more like soul pop leaning. Not for any like specific reason. It's just kind of what my heart has been doing the last couple of years. So I'm just kind of going with the flow, and when that switches, it'll switch, and we'll try something else.
Yeah.
Do
you have siblings who are in the music business too, or just you? Or?
I have siblings, but not in the business.
Oh, okay.
They're smarter than I.
Okay. Who have you worked with? I know Canada is pretty hot right now in terms of R&B, but who are some of the artists that you've collaborated with?
So I've done a lot of backup vocals for like local artists around town. So I've sang with people like Jarvis Church, who was in the Philosopher Kings. I'm in a couple different bands. My friend Stacey K, she's like a pop singer. She was on America's Got Talent. Who else have I? I've been within the Drake camp people at points throughout my career, but I took my breaks, everything popped off, but it's okay. I've been with like people in Toronto called Socrates, or like really great MC, all kinds of people. Yeah.
Okay, I know Drake is probably one of the hottest things going right now.
Drake is the hottest thing. Yeah, I remember he was in one of my sessions once, and it was before he was like Drake. So my mom was there. She was freaking out. He was just the guy from Degrassi. That's what we all knew him for. And she was just going nuts. I was like, listen, it's just the guy from Degrassi. Calm down. And then like literally 2 months later, he just popped off.
Yeah. Okay. So, let's talk about Centerfold. Now, I read the notes that your people sent me, and let me, I don't want to misquote you. Let me, and I'm going to excuse the profanity. But,
I mean, you can bleep it out. I don't know.
Okay.
Do as you choose.
All right. Let me find it here. Well, let me just say this. It was about a relationship gone bad.
Basically, more or less, yes.
So, talk about that a little bit. Obviously, you put your feelings into your music.
Yeah.
But if you don't listen to the lyrics, you just kind of want to dance to it.
And that's kind of what I like to do. It's got to obviously feel good. If it doesn't feel good, no one's going to listen to it.
Right.
And then my thing is kind of getting that message in there as well. So obviously having like the more aggressive kind of beat, and it's just like it's danceable, it feels really cute. But if you really listen to the lyrics, it's not very cute. It was just a situation that was just not very good. And at the time when I was writing it, I just felt like, one, it was kind of scary to get that personal, because I think up to this point, I have been like personal enough in my music, but it's always been in a way that's a bit more cryptic maybe, and not so like right in your face. And so I've been trying to just be more honest and more open as far as I possibly can. And I think this is a pretty good example of that. And it was more of a matter of just like showcasing that side of me and just like being as open as possible.
Okay. Now, from a maybe selfish point of view, you probably want to go through that a little bit more, because Centerfold is a great song. Not that I wish bad relationships on anybody. But.
No, but that's usually what happens, right? Usually it's like it takes a shitty situation to get that kind of inspiration. For whatever reason, I find writing those kind of songs, not to say that writing songs is easy, but writing more breakup songs or songs when you're more hurt, they can be easier to do because those emotions, I feel like those live in us a lot heavier than happy emotions, where like we can be happy, but to express that happiness through music or whatever can often be harder to do for whatever reason.
Okay. And so this experience you had when you were writing Centerfold, how long did it take you to get over that? Once you got into the studio, it was...
you know what's funny? So, I mean, I think the situation happened it was probably 2016, 2017, the situation happened. And, you know, like, oftentimes we go through things and then we think that we're over it and, like, it's not on our minds anymore. And I got into the studio studio was in 2019. And for whatever reason, it just, like, popped up. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm not over this. But up until that point, I hadn't really written about it or spoken about it in a while, but you know, so yeah, it's like things happen to us and they can fade away, but it's like unless you actually deal with it, it is still kind of lingering there, obviously, and there was a lot of resentment there still. So it's out now, so I feel like now I'm not worried about it. I don't really think about it much more aside from having to, you know, tell you about the story, but you know, yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this. You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but
okay.
The person on the other end, do they know that Centerfold is about them and your relationship?
I mean, I didn't personally tell them, but I feel like it's honest and obvious enough that they should know.
Okay.
And I don't feel any ways about it. If you want to ask me that, I don't feel any ways about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, you know, I don't think it like slanders anyone's name too much or anything. It's just, this is what the situation was. And I've also, like, these kind of things I have spoken to him about already, so it's not like it being used that I was feeling this way.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to pry anymore. I mean,
you can do what you want. It's your show.
Now, usually when people write about breakups, and it's usually kind of a slow, dramatic song. Yeah. What made you want to make it more up tempo?
The situation was just that bad. The situation called for something that was a bit more aggressive. I don't know that I didn't sit down in the studio just to be like, you know, it has to be up tempo. We just went with the flow. I came into the session, I didn't have any pretense of what this day was going to be. It's just like, it was like four of us in a room. None of us had ever met before, and we just kind of vibed it out. So I kind of played them some things that I was listening to at the time that I liked, and it was mostly more up-tempo kind of stuff. And then once they started laying down the chords, like, we just got the vibe. And I think having like the aggressive drums just brought out the nature of that situation a lot.
Okay. So how has it been received? Well, let me ask you, you're from Toronto.
Yeah.
How has it been received well in Canada, but also has it been exposed to the US market?
Yeah, so we actually got a premiere for it from Paper Magazine, which was huge. When my PR lady told me that, I thought she was pulling some kind of prank on me. So that was like, it was a good look. All my friends think I'm famous now, which is just definitely not the case, but you know, we're working on it. But it's been received really well. I was scared to put it out because it is very different from what I was doing before. And obviously I have a fan base from my first two EPs that definitely had more of an organic feel to it. And this one obviously is definitely more electronic. It's more upbeat compared to what I was doing before. It's definitely more slow. So I was definitely scared to put it out and just see what people would think. But the response has been really, really, really great. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I can't wait to play. So I guess we maybe tease the audience a little bit. We're going to get into Centerfold. This is Tafari Anthony with Centerfold. Enjoy.
All right.
We'll continue our episode after this message. Swag at shop.bringbacksoulmusic.com. Now, back to our conversation.
And we're back. Tafari, man, great song. Great song. It's funny when your folks sent it to me, I just kept playing it. I was like, okay, this is different, and so I think the whole thing just works. So I'm sure that people are going to enjoy it just as much as I do.
Thank you.
So let me ask you, now that's the single. Are you putting out an album behind that or releasing other stuff?
So I definitely have a bunch ready to go. Obviously, with what's going on right now, I'm trying to just figure out what is now the best course of action, because obviously no one's touring this year as it stands. And that's usually how we back up these releases, right? So without that, it's like we kind of have to rethink our strategies now and just see if it's still worth putting things out. And if so, like, how are we going to adapt to kind of fit into what's going on right now? So I'm not sure. I have a lot here ready to go. It's just a matter of timing a lot of times.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna put it out, you want to hit the roof.
Because you spend a lot of money and a lot of time on doing it. So you don't want something as far as just bad timing to be the thing that doesn't get the attention on it, right? So, like, for instance, like Centerfold, I've had that song now. I think I wrote it maybe about 2 years ago at this point, or about a year now. And it was a matter of just waiting for the right time to put it out, because I could have put it out when it was first done, but I don't think the timing was ready for it, you know what I mean? So,
yeah, it's Corona got everybody Corona got everybody kind of
everyone's shocked,
Yeah, particularly for artists who need, who want to go on the road and support their projects. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I had a lot booked this year, and honestly, within the weekend, it all got canceled. So it's a lot to deal with, but I mean, obviously our health is more important than
no question
these tours. So, and at the end of the day, as long as we can get through this, we can do our tours later.
Yeah,
it'll be
exactly.
fine.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, good luck with that, man. I hope.
Thank you.
Hope you hit the road soon.
I mean, at the very least, it might inspire some more writing. So
yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's get back to your first. You said you cut an album when you were like 19.
Oh yes.
What was that? Well, let me ask you this: are you a independent artist?
Yeah, I've been independent the whole time. Yes. So it's a lot of writing grants when you have the time to write grants and hoping you get money, and just a lot of sacrifice. Like, I don't really do much else than just work to make money to do music.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now let's get back to your first album when you were 19. Did you self-publish that, or how did?
Yeah. So the first album was self-released. It was called Almost a Star. I think I wrote it and recorded it between like the ages of, I think it was like 14 to probably 18. So I was like young. The topics were about the same. I don't know who I thought I was or what I was going through, but somehow I thought I was still falling in love and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, it was at that time I was definitely pushed more into doing a more straight up R&B thing, because that's just what a young black man does, right? So at the time I was definitely into a lot of different genres still, but the people I was working with, that's kind of where they put me, and it was what it was. It was fine. But I think that's also part of why I had to take a break, because even though I was the one who wrote the songs and I recorded it and I approved it all, it wasn't really me fully. So I think it was important for me to just take a step back, reevaluate, and make sure that I was doing what I wanted to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that your parents are in the music business. Have they helped you with writing, or did you go to them for advice on?
Back then, yeah. Like back then, it was no. They didn't really help me write at the time, but it was a lot of like, oh, look what I wrote, and like, what do you guys think, kind of thing. Whereas now it's like, oh, this is out now, you can listen to it. Yeah, but as children, like, we're always kind of seeking that approval from our parents, right? So that's why I say again, it's like, it wasn't until after I moved out and like lived my own life that I feel like I really got into music, because it was a lot of like just trying to like please that kind of thing. So
right, and I guess when you're on your own, you get more life experiences too. So a lot of stuff to write about.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we already covered that you're going. Well, touring is out of the question probably for the foreseeable future.
Tour is canceled. Yes.
Yeah. What are you going to be? You say you're going to do some more writing.
Yeah, I like in my heart of hearts, I think I will still probably release at least another song or two. I might wait till things kind of calm down to see if I do like a full project or not. But I have enough here ready to go that it may be worth putting it out, just because I was ready to go this year, and like I had all my stuff ready to go. And I think with how well Centerfold is doing, people are going to want to hear more. So I don't want to, leave you all hanging and just be like, oh, here's the one song and,
right.
See you later. So yeah, I'm just got to work it out with everyone and just get some advice and see what makes the most sense to do that.
Okay. And I'm assuming you're getting a lot of airplay up in Toronto.
It's doing well. I'm not mad. I'm not mad.
So Tafari, we covered the motivation or the inspiration behind Centerfold. What do you hope people get out of your music?
Honestly, like, I hope that people just get that feeling of, maybe listening to a friend or getting advice from a friend when they hear my stuff. I'm hoping that the honesty in it shows like kind of my personality and like how I roll. I try my best to be very upfront with people. It's not always received well, but I feel like being honest and being open is a big thing, and I think it can kind of save us from a lot of crap and heartache. So when people listen to music, I hope that they kind of get that vibe and kind of feel the humor, feel like they can very much relate to what I'm saying, and that it helps them in whatever situation they're going through.
So what else you want to? Well, let me ask you: how can people? Where can people purchase your music?
So everything is on Apple Music, iTunes, Bandcamp, all that stuff. If you just search Tafari Anthony, that's T-A-F as in Frank, A-R-I, you will see my face. There's not many of us Tafaris around. And then you'll see my socials. Sometimes I do some funny things in there, sometimes not so funny, but I'm around.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, give me a song that we can end the show with.
A song to end the show with. Okay. I think I'll give you one that's called No Better. So this is from my first EP, and this one definitely will give you more of a vibe of what I was doing before. It's got more of a rock feel to it, but it's still groovy. I still think it's got some pop elements, and obviously the voice is just soul, so I can't really escape that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is like my quote unquote hit from Canada. So
Tafari, again, tell people where they can reach out to you and listen to your music or find your music.
Yeah, so if you just search Tafari, Tafari Anthony, all my socials are at Tafari Anthony, and yeah, you'll find me and what I'm doing and what's coming up next.
Okay, great. All right, for Tafari, excuse me, Tafari. Thank you for joining the Bring Back Soul Music Podcast today. I really appreciate it.
Nice talking to you.
All right, man, and keep in touch. And good luck with everything. And hopefully, you can get back on the road and start promoting your music.
Here's hoping.
There you go. Tafari, thank you very much, sir.
My pleasure, man.
All right, that's Tafari on the Bring Back Soul Music Podcast, and we'll be right back.
Calling all lovers of soul music. The time to make soul music relevant again is now. You've been listening to the Bring Back Soul Music Podcast with Todd Woodson. If you enjoyed today's show, be sure to tell a friend. Make sure you never miss an episode by subscribing to our newsletter at bringbacksoulmusic.com.
Well, that's our show for today. I'd like to thank my special guest, Mr. Tafari Anthony. You can find out more about Tafari on his website, You can also find out more on our website at bringbacksoulmusic.com. Don't forget, you can listen to the Bring Back Soul Music podcast on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. You can also connect with us on social media, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you have any questions or comments, please email us at comments@bringbacksoulmusic.com. Taking us home this evening is Tafari and another song called Know Better. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Todd Woodson. See you next week.